Alright, so I've got a little air compressor here that I've sort of customized. I can link this in a previous video or whatever. I can link that down below. But this one's got a USB, or this one has a cigarette lighter, a standard like US in the States cigarette lighter. This is what they look like. My problem with this now is I got a new bike, and this new bike it does have a cigarette lighter thing on it, but it's the European style. It's the DIN or DIN one, and so this does not fit in there. What does fit in there are these guys here. So I ordered some connectors here, and we should be able to use these guys. So if I grab one of these out of the package, that should fit in there. So what I'd like to do is swap this one out for this thing. Alright, so to swap them out, I'm going to take this guy apart. We'll see how easily we can undo the connections in here. Got my little screwdriver. I don't know if this is necessary or not. Alright, there's that. And then I'm just going to snip off the ends of these wires. Yeah, because that's soldered on there. And then this one. Alright, snipping. Yeah, and this has got some little wires in here. The connections on here are just so that it's meant so you can stick the wire in there and then crank this down onto the wire. So I might pre-solder these wire connections then so that they will crimp better in these style connectors. Alright, I put some flux on there. I'm going to go ahead and I think the soldering iron should be hot enough. I hope at this point. A little bit of solder on that one. I'll strip this one back. Put some flux on there. Alright, now we got a connection here, and in theory we got our soldered end there. So now in theory we can just stick this in here, tighten this down, and do the same with this one. There, when we got our connection. Oh, I gotta put this guy on. Oh boy. Alright, and then this should slide on over the top. And just screws down. That's it. Now in theory we've swapped this over. Let's actually test it and see if it works. Alright, I'm going to plug this into our bike. And then turn the bike on. See if this works. No? Alright, so it doesn't work. Alright, so taking my KTM apart here, I've gone to try and use this guy. This is a little cigarette lighter here on the side, and found out that it's not connected on the inside. There's no wires in there. So I've taken the front apart because more than likely a bike of this era will have an accessory wires up here just waiting to be utilized. And sure enough, We've got these two here. We've got two accessory connections up on front on this bike. So I'm gonna test these and make sure I'm actually getting power and these will work. And then if they are, we'll run some wires. I've got some spare wires here. I'll run some wires back down through the bike to that cigarette lighter. All right, I'm just gonna turn the bike on, see if we get power out here. Got power to the headlight. Yep, got power there. All right, so this guy takes some little blade terminals there, which I should have some. Should have some of those in my big box of electrical connections here. Yeah, this would be them right there. The female ones are on the bike. We need the male ones. I've got some wires out of my sort of salvage stash here from other vehicles that look very similar to the wires that are on that accessory line coming into the front there, so from the bike. So I'll use these to run these from that accessory connection to the side of the bike. So I've got two of these. I've already cut them to length, and I'm just going to get my ends, my terminal ends situated on there. I'm going to use my little fancy crimper here. I've got my terminal in there. Stick this guy in. I've stripped off the end of this wire, so we'll have a nice connection in here. And I'm going to solder that thing as well, just to ensure we've got a great connection. Alright, so a little bit of flux in here. I've got my rosin core solder. And that should be good. Alright, I've got this little like protective sheath here that I want to put these wires in so they'll be protected from abrasion and whatnot. And this is kind of like a Chinese finger trap kind of situation with this stuff. Alright, I've got my sheathing on there. Now I want to go ahead and put some heat shrink on there as well. Slide this all the way over to the other end. And cover that up like so, and then we'll shrink that down. And we'll do the same thing on this end. Alright, so here's my wire all made up here. I'm going to go ahead and run it through the bike. I'm going to start by connecting it up here. Alright, that's good. And then we can run these wires along the other wires, basically. Alright, so then I'm going to run them up along here, down here, and out this little hole on the side here. Alright, and then we should be able to plug them into a plug here on the back side of our panel and make sure these things are working. Alright, I'm going to test this out. Put this guy in. Oh, yeah, that works. It was on. So yeah, that will work. Alright, now I should be able to attach these wires and then attach our panel back on the bike, and we're done. I didn't realize when I bought the bike that there was no power to that thing. And I've also gone ahead and zip tied that wire in at different spots along the way, so it's not just free floating everywhere.